Hey there, my name is Alex, I am the Silver Mont, and this is my review of Valkyrie Elysium, played on PC via Steam. Disclaimer, I received a key for this product from Square Enix. I didn't receive any monetary compensation, or the like. The best way I can think to describe this game is PS2-y. Much of this game put me in mind of action games I played on the PS2 quite a few years ago. That's not exactly a bad thing. Of course, I've seen people looking at the graphics and saying, those are PS2 graphics. It's true, the game isn't going to push the envelope when it comes to visual fidelity, though it's definitely not PS2 level. PS3, maybe. Graphics aren't super important to me though, and when I say it reminds me of a PS2 game, I mean more in the way it plays, the way the story is presented, and so on. You're thrust right into the game's tutorial after a small intro narration, which teaches you most of the key gameplay aspects. At its heart, this is an action game where you can chain light and heavy attacks, dodge, block, and parry. The more unique aspects would be that you can summon spirits to enhance you, or fight alongside you, or both, whilst also shooting out magical spells. These spirits and spells will generally be aligned with an element, as will enemies. So if an enemy is weak to lightning, you want to zap them. Hitting them with the right element will make it easier to break them, which stuns and staggers them, and then you can stagger them again to knock them down, but make them immune to that element for a little time. Your character also has upgrade trees for you to advance through, unlocking passives and new abilities. Thankfully, there's some neat things in here, and it's not all just, oh, plus 1% bursting power, or plus 2% ability to sniff the grass. There's a nice number of actual moves and abilities to unlock in there, which is always a nice sign. The game's story, well, it's there. You play as a Valkyrie, summoned forth by Odin to smack things that he is no longer able to smack, after ostensibly being taken out of commission, following Ragnarok. Nothing about it really stood out to me. It was more like the story in an older game that exists just as a framework for you to proceed with pummeling things. As for the game, you'll be playing through levels that are semi-open but mostly linear. There'll be optional paths to take to get more items or collectibles, but the main path forward is typically pretty straightforward, with enemies scattered around for you to smash. You'll find new weapons, spells and the like as you go forward, at a nice enough pace to keep things from getting stale. And the overall combat is, well, it's not as complex as Neo, nor as intricate as Devil May Cry. It's rather simple, but there's nothing wrong with that. Elden Ring has a pretty simple combat system after all, and that's one of the best-selling games of this year, and a serious contender for Game of the Year. The animations in this game are nice, and the hitboxes and such all feel fine to me. I feel like games of this nature are rare these days. Straightforward action games with no cash shops, gachas, battle passes or whatnot. It is what it is. Whilst it's no game of the year for me, it's an enjoyable enough hack and slash or action game, however you prefer to refer to. And sometimes that is enough. There's multiple difficulties to select from, of course, but how much you get out of this game will, well, depend on if you feel inclined to play through multiple times. A first playthrough will probably take around 15 hours. The boss battles are decent enough, but I don't anticipate playing through multiple times for now, which isn't necessarily a knock at the game. Even Devil May Cry 5, which I enjoyed a lot, I have only played that once since release. It's worth pointing out this is the latest entry in a franchise, but takes a rather drastic departure from the older games, the other games in the series, which I've never played. But as I understand, fans of the series, some at least, aren't very happy that it's gone from a sort of side-scroller almost, with a more tactical action combat mode, to a real-time action game, which is of course understandable for fans who were hoping for a modern entry in a franchise they enjoyed. If Dark Souls 4 came out and it was a tactical RPG, for example, I might find that a little bit strange. As for the game's performance and the like, PC options are limited, but I had no issues with the game from frame rate to stability. It performed, loaded and ran just fine on my system. I'll point out that I played it with a controller, so I'm not sure how mouse and keyboard support would be, if it's even present. Either way, I wouldn't advise playing a game like this using something that's not a controller. Although I'm sure someone out there is determined to now beat it using a dance mat or their racing wheel. Either way, it's a very middle-of-the-road sort of game. Simple, but not bad, not amazing either. Average. So I hope this review was useful or entertaining. And if you have any questions, ask them down below, and I will get back to you ASAP. Until next time, thanks so much for watching, see you soon.